So, have you ever wanted to be the conductor of an orchestra? Wouldn't that be a lot of fun to be able to lead the instruments into this great cacophony of music and performance? Well, what happens if you tried to do that and you were a panda? Yeah, it sounds ridiculous, right? But that is the concept behind the game that we're going to be discussing today. That game is Okey Dokey.
Okey Dokey is a fairly simple game where you're trying to arrange the cards from numbers 1 through 8. You can see it in this row right here. This is kind of what your end result of each line is supposed to look like when you're done. You have 5 rows here, and each one represents one of the colors. Per column, you have to have at least one of these reset cards, these 0 cards, placed down. Which color you use it for in each column is going to be up to you as you go up play out the game. It's a cooperative game where you're trying to achieve this all the way down, and the cool aspect of it is that you're not allowed to communicate with the other player outside of which preferred color they might want to play or how many of a specific color. So you can't tell them you have like a red one or a green one or something like that. You have to be a little bit more vague with your clues. Each turn consists of two things. One is playing one of your cards down in your given column that you're currently working on, and then you have to draw a card to replenish that. You, when the player decides that they're going to be the one to play the reset card, so say, well, this one in the red here, this reset card's played, that person then gets to take up to 2 cards from their hand. Say, I want to pick these two. These are 2 sevens. So these cards would be ones that are higher up cards, so you probably don't want them earlier in the game. You can then take these cards, put them into the bottom of the deck, and draw 2 new cards to replace them. So in this case, I did a little bit better on the green, and then I got a good card in the purple 1 because now that's a lower number card. The tricky part about playing the cards in the given order is you cannot play a card that is a lower value than the one prior. So say I had this 1 that I just drew, and I cannot then play this here because the previous card is a 2. In order for me to be able to play this card, this one would have not had to have been played because you can only play 1 reset per column, but I would have to reset this in order to then play the 1 because that brings it back to 0. If you run into a situation where, say, this is the only purple card you have, you're not able to play it, the red's already been reset, so you can't reset this column. That means the only way you're going to get out of that is by having one of these cards in your hand. This is kind of how you modify difficulty. So in this case, you can play this card here. It can play on any color, and it just carries over the value of the prior card. So in this scenario, this would be a 2, and then this would also be worth 2. So you still wouldn't be able to play this 1 here. You would have to then, since there's no reset up here, all the way down, you'd have to reset this one in order to make it go back to 0 to play that 1. The interesting thing is they give you 3 of these rainbow equal cards, and if you have all 3 of them in the deck, it makes the game a lot easier because it's likely that the 2 players are going to have them divvied up between them, and they'll be able to play them when they need to. If you play a game and you don't have any of the equal signs in there, you really have to communicate really well with the limitations that you have on communication to be able to make it all the way to the end and make your line look like this. Sometimes you'll end up at the end where you won't have the right ones in the right order. You'll end up with one too many colors in your hand, and it can kind of get wonky. You can get all the way to the end and still lose the game. So that's basically the foundation of the game. There's not really much to it, but it's a really fun game, and there's a lot of replayability to it. So I'll meet you back up top, and I'll talk about my final thoughts.
To be honest, I hadn't heard of this game until I went to PAX Unplugged a few years ago, and I ended up stepping by the TMG booth, the game producers for this game, and I was actually playing a couple of other games that they were advertising there. They had like some tables out, and this one was up on the shelf, and it just the artwork kind of caught my eye. You know, a little panda that was, you know, conducting an orchestra, and all the other animals playing instruments, and it seemed fun. I'm always on the lookout for two-player games that have enough replayability where I can play them over and over again, and this kind of fits the bill. I still don't understand why it's called Okey Dokey, but beyond that, it's a great game. It's something that's really simple. The rules are incredibly simple to explain, and you can pretty much teach it to anybody, any age, any game literacy. And there's varying difficulty whether or not you're using those equals cards. If you're using 3 of them, then it makes the game a lot easier. Anybody who really kind of understands the game is probably going to win almost every time with 3, but you can dial it back every time and make it until you're playing without them at all. And it's really cool. It's an impressive looking game when you have it on the table, like it's a rainbow colored music festival. Pros are kind of the things that I've been talking about there. It's easy to teach. It's got a small, nice little box with great artwork. It's really easy to take with you wherever you want. Cons are maybe it's not a very deep game. It's not a game that's going to kind of leave you thinking after you're done playing it. But it's definitely a game that if I happen to lose a game, I want to play another one so I can win. And if you can play a simple game like this and immediately want to play another one, then I feel like that's a good sign for the game. So I definitely would recommend this game, and if you want to pick one up, we'll have a link to it in the description down below. There's no extra cost to you, and it really helps out the channel. If you like what you see on the channel, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you want to be notified of everything we post in the future. I'll catch you in the next game review.